Okay, okay. Take your seats. Settle down. Settle down. Welcome to the Road to Concord 101. This class is about all things connected to the path of history leading from Mount Sinai to Lexington Green and the individual liberty and freedom of man. If you're in the wrong place, feel free to get up and go see the registrar's office about dropping this class, preferably before you meet the professor. In the event you do not already know this, your professor is Joe Bakanovic, and he has a bit of a reputation on campus. He is most definitely an acquired taste, but if you can learn to tolerate him, he will make you better at defending your position, whatever it may be. I'm T.A. Charlie. I'm here to help the professor, but more importantly, you. We encourage you to take notes, and if you have questions, feel free to call. If you'd like the number, please email us. You can also post your questions in the comments, and we'll get the professor's attention. Part of my job is to let you know a little bit about your professor. As I said earlier, the professor has that bit of a reputation on campus. Not all of it is good. Let me help explain a little with a story about how I came to be the professor's TA. I was invited to attend one of his classes. My first impression of the professor was that he was an egotistical, narcissistic know-it-all. My intent after only a few minutes of class was never to attend another class with this professor. But after class, Professor Joe came up to me and thanked me for my class participation and told me that my perspective was valuable, and he asked me to keep coming to class. This actually took me back a little. To me, he seemed inconsistent. What was I to do? I decided to continue coming to his classes. As I did, I actually started doing what he does encourage students to do. Check behind him and see if what he is teaching is actually correct. I have done this over and over again, and generally speaking, I found what he teaches to be backed by sound, valid, and rational arguments from reputable sources. When I have challenged him and provided a sound, valid, and rational argument in opposition to his current position, he immediately changed his position and thanked me for correcting him. Why do I tell you all this? Professor Joe is a little rough around the edges, especially in the way he delivers his content. But if you stick with him and listen to what he teaches and then go and check his sources, you will likely find, as I did, he will help you better understand the world around you and help you to think better and hopefully to live better. At least that is our hope. One last note. This class builds on itself. Therefore, it is important to attend class regularly. We will not always have time to go over previously covered material. If you are new, we suggest you watch our older classes. We've created playlists to help you with those things we feel are of special importance. Now, let's get started.
Good morning. It's Monday, November 17th, 2025. This is the Road to Concord, and I am your professor, Joe Bakanovic. I've got a bit of an interesting show for you today. We're going to be talking about Islam and the threat of Islam to the United States and to us individually. I want to get going here just right off the bat. Is this going to be a religious show? Yes and no. Am I going to be talking about politics? Yes and no. See, Islam is a theocratic religion. It's the mixing of church and state. It's as much of a government as it is a religion. So you can't talk religion without talking government. You can't talk government without talking religion, not if you're discussing Islam. And those who say otherwise are probably they're either ignorant or they're trying to protect Islam. Now, where do I learn about Islam? I read the Quran. I have read hundreds of pages of the Hadith now. The Hadith are the sayings and customs of Muhammad. There are several collections. I have them on digits, PDF files. I have read the official biography of Muhammad, and I have read the Reliance for the Traveler, which is the book from which Islam draws Sharia law. So I've read their own material, the documents that founded Islam or Islam relies on, or a lot of it. So that's where my information comes from. Today is not going to be a day about hate. A lot of people will say, well, you're an Islamophobe. No. I don't hate Muslims, not per se. Do I hate their goals and their methods? Yes, very much so. Do I hate individual Muslims? Not necessarily. But I don't like people who play the Islamophobe card. They use it like a race card. That's the shield for the sword of Islam. It's an Islamic form of political correctness. And I recognize it for what it is. It's just there to protect Islam from being exposed for what it truly is. Besides, hate there's not, the Bible, Yahweh says that he hated Esau, or he hates this person over that person. It's not hate in the sense you and I think about it. Esteemed less, like it less, have no affinity for it. It's a natural right. It's discernment. And it's protected under the First Amendment. So if I want to dislike Islam, that's my natural right. And I have that right under the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment. So if I'm going to get censored for what I say today, it's probably because it's true. So we're liable to get over the target at some point today. I just wanted to set that up before we even get going. Now, the show's title today, If Left Unchecked, Islam Will End Us. This is true. This is very true. And it's the history of Islam. I put this up on your, the blog page for, it's both We Who Are Lost and The Road to Concord. But this is The Road to Concord, Isaac versus Ishmael. Islam versus the Judeo-Christian worldview. It all goes back to Isaac and Ishmael. People like, what? Bear with me today. I will try to explain it, but this post is full of information for you. We'll come back to this in just a minute. I want to start with what started this for me today. It's a post in Gateway Pundit by guest contributor John L. Kockelman. It's from November 14th, 2025. It says, Embracing the Islamic Invasion. And he is essentially telling you what I've been screaming for a long time. Islam is a threat to the United States of America. And I went through this, and we're not going to read the whole thing, but he mentions the Battle of Tours in here. We'll get to that in a minute. But we come down here, and he's going to list warnings. 42 Muslim candidates have seized control of U.S. elections. CARE's political arm has arrived. Rare Foundation, November 9th. You can read these links that are in here. This is a very good place to start if you want to understand the how it's happening in the here and now in the United States. The Great Replacement, from Steel Town to Sharia Town. There are two different types of replacement theology. Both of them involve bringing foreigners into this nation and flooding us out, making our Judeo-Christian heritage go away through a flood of non-believing foreigners, pagans. And that's exactly what's happening. And that is what the Bible says: the dragon opens its mouth and pours out a river. That's what this is. It's replacement ideology. You replace those people who believe in and obey Yahweh with people who don't believe in him. And it talks about CARE. Congratulate 38 Muslim election winners, at least 76 Muslim candidates nationwide. And that's October 28, 2025 in Harrisburg. Talks about that. It's going to go through how the rise of political Islam is starting to happen in the United States. And he gives you a record of that. And he talks about the idiocy embraced, the urgent need to do something about it. Here's the point I want to make for right now. For those of you, even if you're a Democrat, pay attention. Because this gentleman is absolutely correct in what he says here. Just a few of the more obvious differences between those two competing worldviews, that of the American Judeo-Christian Western civilization and Islam. The U.S. is a representative republic. Islam is a caliphate. Essentially, it is a religious, a sense of borderless religious fascism. It's a hybrid between communism and fascism with a religious connotations. The U.S. is founded on the Christian worldview. Islam is founded on the Quran's worldview, which is a photo negative of the Bible. The U.S. governing quality is reason, reason guided by wisdom, which is essentially revealed natural law. Islam's governing quality is coerced submission. That's what Islam means. It means submission. U.S. trusts in the Lord God Almighty, Yahweh. Islam trusts in Allah. Islam will tell you they're the same deity. They are not. U.S. sees equality of all. Islam sees superiority of Muslims. This is true. That's what a dhimmi. If you do not convert to Islam when they conquer you, you become a dhimmi. And you have to pay a tax. That's a lesser person. Think Jew in 1930s and 1920s, 1930s Germany. The U.S. builds on progress. Islam pillages and destroys. This is true. Now, he gives you a list of possible solutions. I don't really get into those too much. I don't see them as being helpful. This class is going to be a history class of a sort. It starts with the Battle of Tours. The Battle of Tours, October 732, it's a victory won by Charles Martlet, the de facto ruler of the Frankish kings. I'm reading out of the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's Frankish kings over Muslim invaders from Spain. The battle cannot be exactly located, but it was fought somewhere between Tours and Poitiers in what is now west central France. And this will go over the history of this. Somewhere around 712 AD, or they call it Common Era now, but I don't like that. Let me explain to you something. If you're a Christian, and this show has a Judeo-Christian worldview, there's a prophecy, I believe it's in Daniel, about blessed is he who perseveres for the 1,335 days. I've never understood that. And I know there are lots of different interpretations of that prophecy, but the one that I tend to favor counts that 1,335 days and nights. That's literal days, 24-hour periods in the prophetic language. And there is a way of counting that will land pretty much close to the recorded history of the Battle of Tours, what the common accepted date is. I'm just we're using spiritual logic today, fuzzy connections. It won't connect the way a Greek Western mind wants it to concretely, where I can say, hey, I can prove that using, science. We're not going to get there. But this one way of reading the prophecy points us to the Battle of Tours. There's something else that's going on here that most people do not know about. This is the Khazars. The Khazars, rather. The Khazars followed, they are to the east of Europe as to the Battle of Tours is to the west. The Battle of Tours was fought by people who stopped the invasion of Islam from Spain up into Western Italy. And eventually they beat Islam out of Spain back into North Africa. But the Khazars, they are, without getting way into this, they're going to come up and sprout in the same region where the Battle of Ukraine, where Ukraine is today, in the steppes of Russia. But they come up and arise in the same area as the Scythians. And if you're doing some biblically guided research here, you're going to realize that these are actually descendants of the northern kingdom of Israel, the so-called lost tribes. Here's what's interesting in their history. Two parts. They become Jews in the mid-9th century, shortly after stopping Islam. There was a battle, or a series of them, but one big one, where in the 800s, where they stopped Islam right at the Caucasus Mountains. Now, the Caucasus Mountains are important to Marxists and eugenicists because that's where you get the name Caucasian, for fair-skinned people. Now, I'm not going to get into the race on this, but what I am telling you is that the Khazars are probably connected to the Northern Kingdom. And the people who stopped Islam at the Battle of Tours are also related to the people from this same region of the world, the same region where the Scythians were, and where the northern kingdom was dispersed after the fall of the house of Israel, the northern kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes. And there is a prophecy that those 10 tribes would come to possess the gates of their enemies. In other words, they would own their enemies' cities, their lands, their regions. And that's exactly what happened. So what we have here is that Islam was stopped by the descendants of Hebrew tribes. They were not necessarily Christian at the time, but in spiritual thinking, that's irrelevant. So that's the Khazars. And what's that got to do with Islam today? Well, it flows straight into this: the Barbary pirates. Barbary pirates are Muslim pirates operating off the coast of North Africa. They're most powerful in the 17th century, still active into the 19th century. They came up in the early 1600s. They're just practicing Islam as Islam has always been. Islam is a religion of war, of pillage and plunder. When Muhammad first started his religion, first 3 years, he only had his family, essentially, maybe 150 followers, but most of it was his extended family. He didn't think he was a prophet at first. He thought he was accursed and that he was going to die. And he tried to kill himself because he thought he was accursed. It was his wife, I think it's Keturah or something like that. It's a very similar name to Abraham's wife after Sarah dies, which isn't, if you're using spiritual logic, there's a point here. So she convinces Muhammad that he's a prophet, and he starts buying passages of scripture from the local Jews and from an apostate branch of Christianity. Now, after about 3 years, they stop selling him the scriptures and they start mocking him. And this is where Muhammad turns violent. He's chased out of Medina, where he was originally centered. And or I think it's Medina or Mecca. I think it's Mecca and goes to Medina, whatever. I don't really care about that. He's chased out of the city where he's at. This is where he has this revelation that now he's allowed to wage war, even during the time when he's not supposed to be fighting. You know, it's religiously in that area of Arabia, there's a period where you're not supposed to shed blood, or the gods will condemn you. Well, his new god, Allah, it says that's okay. And this is when his religion explodes. It's a god of war, of pillage and plunder, god of silver and gold, god of conquest. And this is when Islam just explodes, because he tells people you get to keep 80% of anything you take in battle. And if you die in battle, you go to heaven, where you're going to be rich and you're going to have little fair-haired young boys that haven't reached puberty yet. And you're going to have, depending on which Quran you're reading and which hadith, it's 72 white raisins and 2 translucent skinned permanent virgins, not 72 virgins. That's from what I understand, that's a modern creation of the promise. But the point is, Islam was born of conquest and basically theft. And it remains that way to this day. Now, the United States, 1600s, the Barbary pirates really get going in the early 1600s. When did the colonies become a nation? 1776, right? So the Barbary pirates are going since the time of the colonial beginnings. It's a book by Brian Kilmeade, and I'm pretty sure it was really written by the co-author Don Yeager. It's Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. I don't know why they're calling them Tripoli Pirates. It's the Barbary Pirates. One of their home ports was Tripoli. But I guess this is just so that we'll recognize the Marine Corps hymn, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Well, the Marines fought the Barbary pirates for years, decades, and that's where we get the name Leathernecks. because we had to literally wear high collars that came up to the back of our head that were over a 1/4 inch thick, made of leather, so that they couldn't behead us in battle as easily. It's the forgotten war that changed American history. This is why Thomas Jefferson ran for president. He was, up until this point, just the Secretary of State. He was tired of paying the tribute. If you go and you research this, at the time that this starts, there were tens of thousands of Westerners in captivity. Tripoli is in Libya, correct? Yes. This is one of the areas that the British and the Germans fought over in World War II. It's the capital of Libya, if I remember correctly, on the coast of the Mediterranean, roughly south of Malta and Sicily. So this area, this whole region of the Middle East, it's been a history of war for as long as we can remember. But now let's go back to the struggle that we have right now. Palestinians and the Israelites. This is connected to Islam from the very early days. And we're going to discuss that a little bit today. And it's not just me that sees this. I didn't put all these books, not all of them, in the homework in the post on the blog page, but a lot of them. This is Epicenter, Why the Current Rumblings in the Middle East Will Change Your Future. It's by Joel Rosenberg. It's essentially a political book that tries to give you the history with some of the politics involved, but it's trying to explain to you what's going on and why. A lot of people read that, politicians read it, but they don't pay attention to it because they dismiss the religious aspect. That's a mistake. Joel Rosenberg also wrote Inside the Revolution, How the Followers of Jihad, Jefferson, and Jesus Are Battling to Dominate the Middle East and Transform the World. That's a fairly thick book. This is teaching religious political history, essentially what I'm teaching you today, trying to. This is a very abbreviated whirlwind course, but this is important to us, folks, because this is going to explain where we're at today and how we got here and why, in the very briefest of terms. I've also shown you this book, Europe, Globalization and the Coming Universal Caliphate by Bat Yor. She was born and raised in Islamic areas of the Middle East. She has been warning for decades now that Islam was going to take over Europe if Europe kept importing them. Well, she could be a prophet today because that's what's happened. The bulk of Europe has fallen, especially mainland Europe. So this is going to take me into something that I have brought up to you over and over and over and over again. The unholy alliance, radical Islam and the American left. I don't like when he says left. It's the deep state. It's left wing as far as political, American political spectrum goes, American politics. The left is totalitarianism, total government. The right is no government at all. But I would argue that anarchy is totalitarianism. So there really is no such thing as no government at all. But that's a different aside. This book was written in 2004. It uses nothing but public documents. This information was known for a while. So the situation he's writing about pre-exists 2004. This goes back, gosh, I don't know how long. The Republican Party is just as guilty. They have friends with Saudi Arabia and Qatar and those places. The Democratic Party aligns more with Palestine and Iran, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Yes, I am telling you that the visible Democratic Party is aligned with Islamic terrorism. It's all about money. Oil for the right, just cash money for the left. The political spectrum here in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're both one party pretending to be two. I've told you that many times. I'm absolutely convinced that Carol Quigley told us the truth. I'm not talking about necessarily the rank and file voter. I'm talking about the corporations, the political party apparatus. But it's irrelevant. If you're a voter of those parties, you're supporting them. So it doesn't matter whether you know this or believe this or not. You're still giving your political, moral, and actual physical, if you're giving money and labor, you're giving your support to these things. So the unholy alliance tells us that the American government has been tied with Islam for a long time. And it has been. And I'm not the only one that sees this. This is by Andrew McCarthy, The Grand Jihad, How Islam and the Left Sabotage America. It's a more recent book. Remember this phrase, the Grand Jihad. He didn't just invent that. We're going to get to it here in a minute. And then this book. It's a little small book. How Obama Embraces Islam's Sharia Agenda by Andrew McCarthy. Same author as The Grand Jihad. Where did he get to those conclusions? Oh, well, he's an Islamophobe and he's a hater. No, he watched what Obama did. Not what he said, what he did. And I was yelling that Obama was Shia Muslim from the get-go, from when he first came on the scene, because I recognized what he was doing. He was behind the Arab Spring. Folks, if you're looking for this creature known as the Antichrist, a human being, embodiment of the devil and everything that the Bible tells you he's going to be, stop looking for Trump. Start looking hard at Obama. He matches everything people think they're looking for with the Antichrist. He matches it very well. I don't believe in the Antichrist, but I do believe that there is a human who will come and lead a battle against Israel. And I believe that he's going to be entangled. He's going to appear to be Christian, but he's not going to be a Christian. And that's exactly what Obama is. And then even Christianity. For a long time in my life, I believed in Christianity. I don't anymore. Not in the sense that the world thinks of Christianity. Why? Very simple. I started to read the Bible in its ancient Near East, Torah observant Hebrew context. And I realized that Christianity is an apostasy, the way it's practiced today. Now, I don't want to get into that today either. I know it'll cause a lot of you to throw your suckers in the dirt. I can prove it. I can prove it 7 different ways to Sunday using your Bible. I don't say it lightly. I know what it means to utter these words. It scares me. It's one of the few things left that scares me because I can't reach those who are in the visible church that think that they're where they need to be. Not if you love Yahweh and his son, the Messiah. There are prophecies that tell you to come out of Mystery Babylon. Well, it's New York City, and that's this, and that's that, and it's Rome, and it's Catholicism. No, it's all apostasy that flows from the way. It's the perversions of biblical teachings. It's not paganism. It's those who follow man-made religions that flow from the Bible. This would include Islam. And the Bible says, come out of her, my people. So I know that there are believers caught up in these institutions, including Islam. Hence, I don't necessarily hate the individual Muslim. I can't. They might actually belong to the Father and the Messiah. If you're paying attention in the right places, there's huge news about how the Messiah is appearing to people in dreams and visions all across the Middle East. It's been going on for years now. You don't hear about that in other parts of the world. It's in the Middle East where it's happening. Things are coming to a point, to a head. It's all centered on Islam. We are seeing the repetition of ancient patterns. It's jihad. Jihad is holy war. It's conquest in the name of Islam. I know that Muslims will tell you, oh, no, it just means a personal inner struggle. No. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You go to the blog post right here, Isaac and Ishmael. There's a video here. It's only 5 minutes long. It shows you the history of jihad around the world, then and now. It's by Bill Warner, his PhD. Jihad versus the Crusades. Not just the Crusades of ancient time, but today. This is very enlightening. There's a book, Muhammad and Charlemagne, or Charlemagne and Muhammad. That's another very enlightening read. There's also Charlemagne and Muhammad Revisited. It's probably a better book. It's an exposition, right, expounding upon the first one, but it tells you in great detail, bringing the receipts, how the classic civilization that we think fell just because of corruption fell to Islam. Well, don't get me wrong, Rome was corrupt. And it became corrupt the very same way we've become corrupt. If you're seeing mirror images or patterns between the United States and Rome, oh gosh, it's rhyming hard, man, like hickory dickory dock. We're following the same patterns of decay. But Rome didn't fall when you think it did. Well, Joe, it fell in the 400s or something, when the Visigoths took over and all that. No, it didn't. Rome survived until the 1400s. No, Joe, no, it didn't. The Roman Empire survived in Constantinople, the eastern part of the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire. Well, no, Joe, the Holy Roman, no, just because it was capital was Rome. There was an east and a west, like two thighs, a waist and thighs, the waist because it came out of the Greco-Roman Empire. So that fits that prophecy of the statue. And what happened with Rome is that they became very soft, very corrupt, very self-centered, very here and now, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. We don't care about the future. And their men ceased to be men. So when the Muslims come pouring out of Arabia in the mid to late 600s rather, they gobbled up what was left of the Western Roman Empire. And they wrote in their history books about how they marveled at the femininity of the Western man. It allowed the easy conquest of the West. But this didn't happen in Eastern Rome, the Roman Empire to the east, the Byzantines. They stayed very manly, warlike, true to their ideals and principles. And they were not conquered by Islam until the mid-1400s. Now look around the United States today. Where do you see manly men? Primarily the Bible Belt. And what are we called? Rednecks. I recently was reminded of what the word, I know what time it is, Charlie. We'll go in just a second here. Be ready. I was reminded of what the word pagan, well, the etymology, where the word comes from. It comes from a Latin word that essentially means redneck. It just means somebody who lives off the land, a hard person, a hard life, a farmer, somebody who is still willing to be masculine. They're very hard to conquer. The Battle of Tours, a bunch of farmers armed with pitchforks, shovels, and hoes. Pagans, essentially. Rednecks. When we come back, I'm going to show you some more of the history. 3 minutes. All right, we're back. There was a comment on the board by Aaron Spikes. He says we were backing Islam during Reagan. Probably goes back as far as World War II. In World War II, the Islamic states and nations were supporting the fascists, primarily Hitler, and he armed them. Before that, it was the Western world. In modern times, it starts with, if you're secular, it'll start with the discovery of oil. If you're looking at this through religious eyes, this is going to start with the origins of the return to Israel movement in the mid 1800s, and it really gets going with the Balfour Agreement and Lawrence of Olivier, or Lawrence of Arabia, rather, not Lawrence of Olivier, or Lawrence of Arabia, excuse me, which is actually a really good segue into where I want to go today. One of the reasons that we can't connect to these things, especially with Islam, there's two main reasons. We've abandoned our spiritual. We no longer have spiritual eyes. We've given up the Bible and its history and its truth. And as a culture, we don't care. Even those of us who go to church, we really don't care. It's all, we're going through the motions. If you embrace it and you look at the world with that ancient Near East worldview, that divine counsel, what we're going, our book study on Friday, if you look that way, this is easy to see. All of this just jumps out at you. But there's still, with Islam, there's a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding, and in the case of our media, just flat out lies about Islam and what it is and what it isn't. So where does our affinity in the Western world's allegiance to Islam come? Where's that start? Well, first of all, stop and realize that in the book of Revelation, and I know a lot of people like Joe, you're talking about prophecy and you're just reading things into vague prophecies. No. Prophecy has its own language. And even devout believers, people who I have no doubt believe, don't read that language clearly because they see like Dr. Heiser. He did not see the prophetic language, not very clearly. But if you take time to learn the prophet's language, those prophecies that everybody thinks are vague, like Nostradamus or whatever, they're very specific. You just have to learn the prophet's language. So if I want to go back to the prophet's language, the two-horned beast that rises up out of the earth, two horns like a lambkin, but speaks like a dragon, up out of the earth. That's man. That's Adam, rises up out of Adam, out of the red clay. That's man, rises up at man-made. That's religion. It's Christianity. Two horns like a lambkin. So it's a religion. It's a man-made religion that looks like the Messiah, a lamb. Two horns, one longer than the other. What two divisions are there in Christianity? The Holy Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant movement, right? Those are your two horns. Those are two sources of power. It appears to be followers of Messiah, but it speaks for the dragon. Now, Joe, you're calling my Christianity apostate. Yes. Have you been paying attention to the Pope lately? He's endorsing abortion and the jihad rainbow jihad, all the LGBT whatever. He's endorsing Islam, embracing it. That's the dragon, folks. That's Satan. That's devil right there. Well, that's not the Protestants, Joe. Wrong. You still keep Sunday. The Roman Catholic Church said Sunday is a mark of their supremacy over the Bible, of their authority over the written word of Yahweh, of God. And they said that so long as the Protestant movement keeps that mark, they are still under the authority, the claim of the Roman Catholic Church. So you are still apostate, whether you know it, like it or not. Catholic's words, not mine. That's not the point of today's show. There are prophecies that clearly say that there will be a movement to come back to the original ancient ways. And that's what the whole new covenant is about, the ancient ways. That's why we called ourselves We Who Are Lost, trying to find our way back home to the ancient way, to the way of the Messiah. It's not Christianity. It's what the Messiah taught. It's what the Torah teaches. Well, there's going to be a movement between the house of Judah and the house of Israel, and they're going to come back together. That's what the new covenant promises. And those who are in the house of Israel, who've been living pagan lives, are going to come back to the house of Judah and say, teach us the ways of Yahweh, because we know he's with you. This is prophecy. Part of that prophecy starts in the early to mid 1800s. That's this book, The Oracle, by Jonathan Cahn. Now, Jonathan Cahn has a lot of these pieces, large sections of the overall puzzle, but he has yet to knit them all together. There's a reason for that. He's missing major pieces of the puzzle himself. I'm going to introduce you to Ellis Schofield if you don't already know him. Same thing. He knit a big part of this puzzle together, but he's missing the pieces. They're all missing Allen, and they're missing Trumbull. They're missing the importance of covenants. They're missing the importance of the two houses. If all of that is given to you, the picture is easy to see. But this book, The Oracle, is about the rise of Israel as a nation again. Okay, why is that important? Well, he wrote another book after that, and then he wrote a book after that. So let's skip one. It says, if Israel comes back as a nation, I should expect to see the Philistines come back as a nation, as Yahweh's enemy to his people, the Philistines. Now, he calls them the sea people in this book. This is the dragon's prophecy. There's some serious disagreement between me and Mr. Khan in this book. But the general gist of this book is, when Israel comes back into existence as a physical nation, a political entity, I should look for the devil's people to come back as a political entity. And that's exactly what I see in the PLO. The Philistines are enemies of Yahweh's people, but they are not the sea people. We'll get into that some other day on a We Who Are Lost show. I can prove they're not the sea people. We know who the sea people are. They were Phoenicians, not Philistines. That's important. The Philistines, you know them today as Palestinians. PLO, enemy of Israel. Enter this. Another Jonathan Cahn book, The Return of the Gods. If Israel is back as a nation, then if you know your Bible prophecy, that means the pit is open. Then the return of the ancient gods are going to come back as well. The ancient enemy people of Yahweh, of Israel, the nation of Israel, the ancient gods of these people. There are three primary gods: Baal, Moloch, and Astra, or Asherah. Let's go with Moloch first. Who's Moloch? He's a god of child worship, child sacrifice, abortion. Who's Astra? She's also known as Ishtar, also pronounced Easter. Yes, Easter. That's where you get your Easter egg from, and your rabbit. Her, not Jesus. I'm sorry, it's just true, Christians. It's called syncretism. It's the incorporation of pagan practices into your worship of the one true creator, something the one true creator told you do not do. Not that we care about that. Ishtar is the god of fertility, sexual promiscuity, ambiguity, basically the LGBT rainbow jihad. And then there's the god of Baal, a god of war, a god of conquest. And he rides the clouds and calls himself, well, he's the Messiah. He has a higher god called El, like Elohim. In other words, he mimics Yahweh and the Messiah. Now, in the Bible, it seems to be the other way around. And in the secular world of archaeology, people think, well, Israel just copied this from him. Except if you read the Bible as history, you know that this existed before these false gods took over control of the nations. So let's just jump, what it gets down to is it's an inversion. Inversion. That's how Satan works. Isaiah 5:20-21 makes good evil, evil good. Makes a girl a man a girl. It's inversion. That's also Estra, Easter, Ishtar, Easter. Now, Baal in the ancient Semitic language, in both Hebrew and I believe in Aramaic, is spelled BL, the way we look at it. In Canaan, it's Baal in that region of the world. In Arabia, it's Bel. Same God. That's Allah. I've done the research. That's Allah. Bel is Allah, a god of war, of conquest, of money. They're the same God, the return of the gods. They've come back to oppose Yahweh's people. Okay. Yahweh's people got in trouble. The northern kingdom got in trouble for what? Apostasy, harlotry. But it's also presented in the prophecies as relying on other nations. Well, that's still spiritual apostasy. If I rely on Egypt, I'm also relying on Egypt's gods. The only reason for Israel to go to Egypt for help is because they don't trust Yahweh. They trust Egypt and her gods. And they go to Assyria for help, and they go to Babylon, and they make alignments, political alignments in the material world. But those are also political alignments in the spiritual world. And Yahweh warned the northern kingdom. You're apostate. You have left me. You're committing harlotry. You're an adulterous wife. I am going to divorce you. And he sent them a warning. You'll find it in Isaiah 9. Jonathan Cahn calls it the harbinger. We got the exact same warning from the exact same people. This came from the Assyrians. Today, Iraq, Syria, Muslims. But historically, people of the devil, spiritual enemies. And we duplicated those. The stones have fallen, the bricks have fallen. We're going to rebuild with, cut stone and all this good stuff. The trees have fallen. We're going to rebuild, build back bigger, better. Essentially, that's the boast. And that's what sealed their fate. It was meant to turn them back to Yahweh, to get them to repent. Well, those are the people. Those before Islam, but those are the same people groups of Islam. Well, the Antichrist is going to destroy Jerusalem with the people groups of Islam. No, Joe, it was the Romans. Yeah, it was Roman officers. But they were regional legions, raised literally from the same areas that destroyed the northern kingdom. Those Roman legions were Assyrians. Today they're Muslim. Leads to the harbinger too. This is the condemnation. We got the warning. We didn't repent. Now we're going to be destroyed by the exact same people. Today we call them Muslims. Spiritually, they are still the children of Satan. The very first person that I have run across that recognized the spiritual connection to Islam and what was going on is Ellis Schofield. And he recognized it early 1970s with the rise of Islamic terrorism in Tabi and the first terrorist bombing and everything like that, which was not really all that long, is 10, 15 years after we recognized Israel as a nation, 1947, 48, in that area. And then we had all the attacks against Israel, Arab wars, 48, 60s, 70s. And then they started with the terrorism because they got defeated by a nation of ragtag individuals fighting with cobbled together weaponry. Shouldn't have won, but they did. Ellis Schofield wrote a book called The Hidden Beast. That's what's right here. That's the original book in the cover. This is Hidden Beast 2. Hidden Beast was published in 89. Hidden Beast 2 in 1990. This tells you everything I've been going over. He knit most of it together. He's the closest one I've ever come to seeing somebody who understood. He was missing a few pieces. He calls it the two churches, the two witnesses, Judaism and Christianity. But that's actually the two houses, the house of Judah, house of Israel. If he had the two houses, he'd be close. He understands Hebrew poetry, parallelism, chiasms, bifids. He understands the prophetic language. He understands a lot of that, but he doesn't understand the two houses in the way the covenants and the inheritance works. in their day and age. If he had that, well, heck, man, I wouldn't be teaching you. I'd just be telling you to read Schofield because he'd have put it all together. He came out a couple years later. Who is behind the Middle East terrorism? The false prophet. It's about Muhammad. Good information in here. He's 100% accurate. And he did The Religious Battle Behind the Headlines, Islam in the End Times, Ellis Schofield. He's got it right. And so far as I've been able to find, he was the first one to get it right. Now, I have done a lot of checking behind him because he gave me the receipts. He told me where to look and what to look for. Sure enough, when I checked, that's what I found. Charlie, would you mind joining us for a few minutes?
Yep.
You checked that book too, Hidden Beast, didn't you?
Oh, I checked that one hard.
What'd you find?
Found that he made me change my position on a lot of issues because,
Couldn't break the argument, could you?
No, I couldn't. First time I went through it, I'm like, yeah, this is a bunch of hooey. But
So
then the next time I went through it, I actually started checking behind him and checking his references and things like that. And I'm like, oh crap. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yep. This lines up. Okay. Maybe this is more than a coincidence. Yeah.
So stay with us. I want you to help me out with something. This is in your homework. Isaac and Ishmael, the origin of the Middle East conflict and the foundation for understanding eschatology, end times. It's 24 pages. I'm not going to go through it today, but it's in there for you. This is very informative information. Now, the reason I asked Charlie to stay here, he reads Hebrew, right? Y'all know this. Hopefully y'all know this. Charlie, there's a section in our Bible where it talks about Ishmael laughing at Isaac. You remember this passage?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We just covered that the other day in congregation.
Right. So if we're talking laughing, just ha, 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 like they're playing around, that doesn't seem to fit the severity of what goes on in that passage, does it?
No.
You've come to believe that it's actually the meaning of the Hebrew there has been a little lost, hasn't it?
I believe so. I believe that's
how do you read this?
We don't really.
How do you read that passage in the Bible? Because it's important to the discussion today.
The way I've come to understand it is this was some sort of dispute, most likely over the birthright,
which is the land.
It's the only thing that makes sense because if you connect the dots, when Hagar conceived, she kind of even rose up in rebellion against Sarai or Sarah.
Yes.
And, that there's even a story where, Sarah kind of kicked her out for a while and then she came back and yada, yada. But this incident is when Sarah said, enough of this. And she even says in there that Ishmael will not be the heir, Isaac will. So that also gives you another indication that whatever happened here had something to do with the birthright. And
he might have been mocking. Is another interpretation of that Hebrew, instead of laughing, could it also mean mocking?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah,
right.
a lot of scholars believe it was some sort of mocking.
So he might have been taunting Isaac about how Isaac's not going to inherit the promises.
Yeah, very well
folks,
could have been.
Bear with us here for a minute. This is important.
Very well could have been.
All right.
Yeah.
In the rabbinical tradition, Ishmael was threatening Isaac's life. Why would he do that?
Yeah.
Why would Ishmael want to threaten Isaac?
Well, look at what Abraham had. He was an extremely wealthy man.
And he was promised all of the Holy Land from the the Euphrates all the way to the Nile.
Yeah.
And they believed, even Ishmael believed he was going to inherit that. What region of the world does Islam claim is holy to them? From the Euphrates to the Nile.
Yep.
And Muhammad said that he claims it all the way back to Abraham through Ishmael.
Right.
This isn't nothing, folks. Now the Bible. Isaac is the son of promise. Ishmael's the son of a slave. Okay. Well, not just this is Charlie, this is spirit logic here. We do know that Hagar was basically a handmaid or a slave, right? She's an Egyptian.
Right.
In the prophetic language, Egypt means physical bondage.
Yeah.
Hagar was physically bounded. Okay. As the son of the promise versus the son of the slave, that's essentially saying that Isaac is the son of grace, spiritual son.
Right.
Ishmael is the son of works, a material son.
Yeah, I can see that.
Through bloodlines. Okay. So Isaac has the birthright. Ishmael has nothing. Isaac doesn't have to do anything to inherit. Ishmael has to take things into his own hands. Ishmael's got 12 children and 12 sons. They become the nations that you and I know as Arabs. Arab means does not mix. That's what that means. And what's the prophecy about Ishmael? It's going to be a wild ass of a man with his arm raised against everybody.
About against everybody. Yeah.
They become the Muslims. This war that you're in goes all the way back to Abraham's 2 sons, and it's a war over the exact same piece of land. Why would that be so important? Well, in the physical sense, you're not going to be able to explain this, but spiritual logic, that part of the world is what? That is the footstool of the Creator. So you've got the devil presenting himself as Baal, Allah, fighting over the seat of creation, Jerusalem, against Yahweh. You will not be able to explain that in physical, human, psychological terms. You can't. Trust me, I have not found anybody who can explain while that battle is still going on. But I can explain it spiritually. In very simple terms that even a child can understand. Now, if I pull out old Occam's razor, which way would you go with that, Charlie?
Well, yeah, it makes sense, and it shows the attitude as well of those people. You know, I love the little video that Dennis Prager did on PragerU explaining the Middle East crisis, and it was a simple statement: one side wants the other side dead. Yes. And that's exactly what is going on here. And it's not just a physical battle. Like you said, it's a spiritual battle. It's continuing to go on. It's been going on for millennia, and it will continue to go on until the final battle, you know, when Yeshua returns.
Here's the Battle of Tours. Over here is where the Kazakhs stopped. This is from the 7th to the 9th century jihad, expansion of Islam. I just want to show you these before we sign off for today. The path of Islam. This is cultural Islam. Establish a mosque, and you're going to have a mosque on ground zero in New York. That's their way of saying they've won.
They're already building it, aren't they?
Yep,
Has it already been built? Or I know it was in progress last I knew, at least.
Create an enclave. That's why Obama imported all these Muslims and put them all in tightly packed little areas. He's creating enclaves. Grow the population. They are very prolific.
Yep.
They don't do abortion.
Importing and because of their birth rate. Yep.
Claim victimhood, which they already do because they're a minority, and we hate them, is Islamophobia.
Yep.
Resist host authorities and customs. They want Sharia law.
Yep. They won't
exploit lawfare. Yep. They will use our laws against us, just the same way Democrats have been doing.
Yep.
Institute Sharia. They're already working on that.
They're working on that.
They
in
will
several
start
places. They've already done it.
They will start to secede, and then they will take over. Afghanistan was once a Buddhist nation, folks. Pakistan was Hindu. Lebanon was Christian. You see the pattern forming? Today, they're all Islamic nations. As a matter of fact, all of North Africa and Arabia was Christian before Muhammad. You don't know this guy. I bet you don't. I can't pronounce his name, and I don't care to. Goat fornicator. It works for me. Muslims do not need to work. Allah made us the chosen people. The earth and heaven have been given to us. So we do not need to work hard. We just need to migrate to Europe or Canada and let the white people serve and work for us and give us lands, facilities, and free money. That's an actual quote. You can find it. You look it up. Why would he say white people? Remember the Kazakhs and the Franks and Tours? Those were all Caucasians. They're all connected to the Northern Kingdom. It's got nothing to do with race. He calls it white. It's not race. It's spiritual heritage. It's where you go back to your lineage. It's from Memory TV. This is from Arab TV. And I don't remember who this guy is, but I've looked this up. You can find this video online. You're going to need a translator because it's actually in Arabic. It says, we are experts in pretending. Taqiyya. I've told you about this. Our religion deliberately teaches us to lie for the sake of dawah. Spread the religion. And the benefit of the ummah. The ummah is the Islamic way of saying the body of Muhammad. That's how a Christian would think about it. If necessary, we pretend to be good and friendly to the kafir. That's non-believers, but then become radical when our numbers grow bigger. This is why your Sunni Shia friends seem peaceful. This is your source is an explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the group in North America, published in 1991. 1991. The Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad. Now you know where McCarthy got the title of his book. In eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within, sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers, so that it is eliminated and God's religion is made victorious over all religions. And it is God, because it says Allah, and Allah is the Arabic equivalent of Elohim, which just means spiritual being. But this has been going on since the 1990s or longer. We are the great Satan. There, Israel is the lesser Satan. That man right there was a Muslim. I guarantee you he was Shia.
Yep.
Still is. That's the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's all the connections. And if you'll remember Glenn Beck, Acorn and all these other things, and the ACLU and the SDS, that's all collected to George Soros. Folks, what has happened is the secular left come up with all these techniques for infiltrating America, just like the communists said they were going to do. But then they aligned themselves with Islam because they needed the money, thinking they're just a bunch of goat farmers and we'll take care of them. It's the other way around. Islam has been taking care of and handling the secular humanists. And they're winning. This is the connection. Why is this important? The Muslim Brotherhood in CARE was the #1 visitor to the Obama administration at the White House. And Obama put these people, now I know you can't really read this, but these are just some of the most prominent figures that were put into the United States Secret Service, FBI, CIA, State Department, all of our heads of the military and our intelligence networks. They're all Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. It's about jihad. They are the political arm of Islam, of the caliphate. This is not a joke. They're still in our government. This all goes back, all of it goes back to Isaac and Ishmael. Comment on the board from Barbara Stratton. Chrislam unites Christians and Muslims. The Pope and increasingly more and more well-known Protestant leaders are endorsing Chrislam, which will be the Antichrist spirit religion. Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam added an amendment to the Quran stating Christ was just a human and Mary and Joseph lied, and yet he also has claimed to endorse Christianity, which is the spirit of Chrislam. So is it with Farrakhan's the one who taught Obama to accept his Christian religion and still be a Muslim, which is why when he was interviewing with Stephanopoulos, he said, my Muslim faith. And by the way, Muhammad's the one that said the Messiah, Yeshua was just a man and that he did not die. He was not crucified. He just appeared to be that way. Totally antichrist, folks. All of it. They will destroy this nation just the way they destroyed the Northern Kingdom. But there are no more nations for Yahweh's people to flee to left anywhere in the world except Israel. And, those Zionist Christians are the worst people Tucker Carlson knows. Either Tucker is ignorant, and I mean woefully ignorant because he has lousy teachers, or Tucker Carlson's a wolf in sheep's clothing and may not even know it.
Yeah. I may not even know it. Yeah.
I should read what out loud?
This one here.
Instead of calling the two parties Republican and Democrat, we should just call them the Sunni and the Shia. Yeah, John Quest.
They're trying to stir up trouble.
Well, you have to understand the division of Sunni and Shia and where that rift comes from. But that's not entirely without parallel. Anyway, this is all I had for you today, boys and girls. Just letting you know that if we don't watch it, if we're not careful, if we don't do something now, we don't have much. It won't take long. Islam's going to destroy this country. It's already moving on it. You've got, the great Republic of Texas that, the Alamo, and we're going to rise again. And the only place that you have a visible spirit of defiance left in this country is the state of Florida. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what Ron DeSantis is doing. I don't trust him. He's a Republican. I suspect he's just going to be another great disappointment with time. I just haven't had enough time with him yet for him to show his true colors. But until he does, I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's kind of how the scriptures teach that. But if you watch what he's doing, he's actually doing what the whole country should be doing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I don't have any hope for the survival of this country anymore. And it's not because I'm a pessimist. Quite the opposite. I have great faith in Yahweh, his written word, his prophetic word, and the prophetic patterns of his people. We're just going to do what we, Ephraim in the Northern Kingdom, has always done. Make ourselves rich, fat, and happy, create bad times, turn apostate for help, and then cry out when we're destroyed by the very people that we turn to help us. Hopefully we'll cry out to Yahweh this time. Because if we do, and the Jews are with us, the house of Judah is with us, and we all cry out, Hosanna in the highest. Well, now there's a prophecy about that. Things get really, really good if you're on his team at that point. Get really, really bad if you're on Team Satan. So we thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. If you like what we're doing, please hit the like buttons, ring the bells if you're watching on YouTube. We need your help with that. Spread the show. Share it. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that. They want, this is a dumb show. I don't want to I'll watch it, but I'm not going to share it with others. Why? If you're afraid to share it, then you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. Have the courage, hit the share button. If you're so inclined and you have the ability to do so, we would really appreciate you helping support the show. Go to the donate buttons and sign up to buy us a $5 cup of coffee every month. We're not asking for more than that, just $5. We'll take whatever you can afford to give us. We do need the help. The bills keep coming in. This show is supported entirely by y'all. When it gets to the point that there's not enough money, I'll fall back just on we who are lost. Once in a week, that's all I'll be able to afford to do. I don't mean to beg. I'm looking for those who would voluntarily move to Galt's Gulch. Nobody in Galt's Gulch took or accepted anything for free. I'm not asking for much. $5 cup of coffee. If you can afford it. Some of you can't. I don't want your money. Just want you to be honest with yourself. That's all. But at the very least you can do is hit the like buttons and share the show. Tell your friends and family whatever you need to about me. The biggest compliment you could pay me is to say, hey, look, man, you hate him. I don't care. Just check what he tells you. Go prove him wrong. Not right. Go prove me wrong. I've gained a lot of allies when people set out to prove me wrong because I know exactly what they're going to run into. I'm not worried. I know what you'll find too. So until the next time, I don't know what we're doing tomorrow. I have an idea. We'll see. Might be a surprise. might turn my ire toward the black robe tyrants in this country. But until we meet again, whether it be tomorrow or Wednesday, y'all stay safe, take care. We love you. We thank you for being here. Bye-bye.